Hello, good people. Welcome back to the Kuhb Games YouTube channel. My name's Evan, and we play goats here. We are taking a look at round 1 of the goatformat.com PWCQ, number 56. I am playing warriors. If you haven't seen the deck profile already, that is also up on YouTube. Go ahead and check that out so you know what's in the deck. We are playing against Toby-1 Kenobi, and we have won the die roll. So we open up with a decent hand here. We do have the Graceful Charity, which I don't want to fire off immediately because we don't really know what we're wanting to look for. It is kind of weird having the Dust Tornado and the Heavy Storm together in the hand because, like, to get the pluses off of the Heavy Storm, you kind of don't really want to set the Dust Tornado, but I usually go ahead and set it anyway. And especially with a hand like this, you don't really just want to play out the Blade Knight. You certainly don't want to play out the Tribe. So I believe my play is just set Dust Tornado and pass. I actually give this one a decent amount of think when playing it in real time. But yeah, it looks like that is the play. Just set the Dust Tornado and pass, which I don't hate. Opponent draws up to 6. They play a Dawn Zalug, so I'm like, well, you know, maybe should have played the Blade Knight there, because clearly this isn't going to work out. We're going to lose a card here. But, so opponent gets in for the 1400. Not a big deal. We can't stop that with the Dust Tornado. Hopefully they don't hit our Graceful Charity. They roll a 5. I'm like, please go to the other side. And they hit the Blade Knight, which is fine. Blade Knight is certainly the worst card in our hand. So, not really a big deal there. Let's see, the opponent then plays a Delinquent Duo. I was like, okay, this is how we're starting out the tournament. Not my favorite here, but of course the Duo is fine. We can't stop that with the Dust Tornado. They roll the 4, and I'm like, again, go away from the Graceful Charity. Cool, they get rid of the Blade Knight. Again, worst card in the hand. Perfectly fine with that. We go ahead and discard the Heavy Storm. I do that because the Tribe Infecting Virus is an answer to the Dawn Zalug. And we have a Dust Tornado already, so if they just set like one back row, we can take care of that, and then we can beat over the Dawn Zalug, get a little bit of a plus back, and we actually have a game plan from there. Whereas if we get rid of any of the other cards, then we could just actually lose the game to this Dawn Zalug. So the opponent does just set one back row and passes. We Dust Tornado, which is nice. We draw Exiled Force, which is pretty good if we think that we're playing against the mirror match, but we're just going to lead on the Graceful Charity here, because Tribe and Exiled Force kind of do the same thing. So we kind of don't really need both of those. We already do have an option for a good discard for the Graceful Charity, and now that I see the Dawn Zalug, I think, okay, it's probably a mirror match. We kind of know what we're looking for. Maybe we'll draw into like a knock or something, and we can go ahead and get rid of that. So I do think it's fine to play out the Graceful Charity there, because you kind of know what you're looking for. You know your options. And let's see. With play, I believe I'm discarding the Exiled Force and the Dust Tornado. Yeah. So again, we don't really need the Exiled Force because we do have Tribe. And if I'm thinking that this is the mirror match, then Tribe is just going to be a little bit better than Exiled Force. If the opponent gets to a point where they start to put like multiple warriors on the board, you can start getting pluses with Tribe, and that can help me actually come back from the Delinquent Duo. And then DD Warrior Lady is also along the lines of those two, but I think it's just a little bit more powerful. Obviously, it can attack, which I think is going to be good here, because now that I see this Snatch Steal, the game plan is going to be take this Dawn, get my opponent down to 2 cards. Now I'm actually up, even after Dawn connecting and the Duo connecting. And from there, if the opponent has a follow-up, we can deal with it with Tribe or DD Warrior Lady. And I just want to be aggressive here. I want to take care of their board. I want to start beating it. Now that I have the card advantage and the opponent's actually just low on cards as well, I just want to take over the game, be aggressive, and DD Warrior Lady is a lot more aggressive than an Exiled Force. So we do throw out the Snatch Steal, take the Dawn Zalug. The way that this backfires, of course, is if the opponent has an MST. If you look at the graveyard here, it's just Delinquent Duo and Sakuretsu Armor. So if they have an MST, you know, so be it. They get their Dawn Zalug back. But I think this is the best way to get myself back into a game where my resources had kind of been picked apart already. And I think this is a good way to go forward with a game plan. I do get to play the DD Warrior Lady. No. Okay. So, obviously I haven't summoned yet. So if they do have an MST, they still can't attack over this DD Warrior Lady with just the Dawn Zalug. They have to have another answer to that. And putting my opponent down to 2 cards in hand, drawing up to 3 on their turn, makes it a little harder for them to be able to do that. So, press and play again. The Dawn Zalug is going to rip a card from their hand. See, we actually hit Divine Wrath. And at this point, I'm like, that's a weird one. You don't see Divine Wrath every day. I know this actually got shown on the stream today. Apparently this person has just been playing Divine Wrath for a while. You'll actually see it come up later in this match, but I didn't know really what to think. I don't think that's a tell maybe that I'm not actually playing a mirror match, because Warriors definitely could play Divine Wrath. It seems weird to play any sort of spell or trap like that where you have to pitch a card in the Warrior deck, because you don't really want to -1 yourself. The whole deck is about 1-for-1ing. So, kind of a tell that maybe it's not Warriors, but also I can't really get a whole lot of information from that. But DD Warrior Lady is going to attack, put my opponent down to 4,100. We are in the driver's seat now. We actually have lethal. We don't have lethal on the board after the Snatch Steal ability, but the opponent sets a monster, sets a back row. Go to my turn, draw MST. Okay. Not usually a fan of blind MSTing here. So I think I actually don't. I can't quite remember what play. Because like if you MST here, and the opponent has set a Dust Tornado, or an MST, I don't think they would have MST'd the Snatch Steal, just depending on what they had in hand. But if they MST the Snatch Steal on their turn, they still can't attack over the DD Warrior Lady, so that's kind of useless. So opponent definitely could have set an MST or a Dust Tornado. So I do fire off the MST. I'm not sure why I do that, honestly. I think my thought process is if we're going with the game plan of get the opponent dead, then we just want to make sure that we can get this tribe on the board and keep attacking. I guess the other thought process is if that is a Dust Tornado or an MST, it's not the end of the world. They get their Dawn Zalug back, but we can just attack over it immediately with the DD Warrior Lady, so we get that plus right back. So, I'm not in love with this play, especially not having a card that I can discard to the Tribe Infecting Virus, but I do understand with like the gameplay thinking behind it. And also, okay, one more thought to that. If I attack with this DD Warrior Lady, and this isn't exactly Gravekeeper Spy, which obviously we're about to see it's going to be Gravekeeper Spy, I'm guaranteed to get over this monster, whatever it is, and then I can rip the last card out of my opponent's hand, and they can't do anything about it with their back row. So it does, I guess it does fit a little bit into the idea of the aggressive strategy here, get the opponent dead. So I don't hate the MST, but it's also, I'm not sold that that was correct to do. But see, the opponent has Gravekeeper Spy. I'm going to take 500 here, and I believe I'm actually not going to activate the DD Warrior Lady because I have this tribe in hand. I think I can just wait. I don't think we're going to be able, like, we could draw out a Torrential Tribute, but if we get to that point, things are still fine. It's a 3-for-3. So yeah, just turn the Dawn Zalug sideways. Let the opponent go. See what's up here. I don't remember exactly what my opponent does here. Looks like they have a big think. Check in the graveyard. I don't believe they have any. Yeah, they don't have any monsters in their graveyard, which is good for me here. I don't really have to worry about the BLS. I do have an answer to the BLS with the tribe in hand, but I would rather have the tribe take out these Gravekeeper Spies, obviously. Opponent thinks for a little bit and just passes the turn. So we draw a Call of the Haunted. I don't really care about that too much. I'm just going to play the tribe, clear these. I'm going to hit my opponent for a ton of damage. And I get to rip another card out of their hand. So now we're up 3-1 on on cards and the opponent's almost dead. So seeing the game plan of snatch the Donzalug, get the opponent dead early on, I think really paid off. Because now we have the opponent sort of on the ropes here. And we're going to rip another card out of their hand. So we actually hit the Premature Burial, which is kind of irrelevant. Not knowing what's in my opponent's hand, obviously I would probably rather just steal any other card. But that's fine. It's another resource that the opponent doesn't get to keep. Now, like, say the opponent summons a monster, and they're able to kill this tribe-infecting virus. We have a DD Warrior Lady that can follow up to kill whatever they have, and then we can have Donzalug that can rip another card out of our opponent's hand. So we're actually looking like we're in a pretty good spot here. I'm still thinking, actually at this point, now seeing the Gravekeeper Spy, I'm thinking this isn't a mirror match. This could be one of the Flip Warriors, something like that. We do see Rhoda. And that's going to search up a main deck Zombra the Dark, but again, like, Zombra is forced to attack the tribe here, which means the DD Warrior Lady gets to hit the Zombra, and then this Donzalug is just going to take the last card out of our opponent's hand, and if we draw a monster that has, 1700 or more attack, then we just get to win the game. 1700 is not the number. We just need a monster with 1200 or more attack. Math is really hard. We draw a Solemn Judgment, which is... that basically means it's going to be game here unless my opponent draws a set monster. That's like the only thing that can get him out of here. So just going to take the 400 off of the attack with the DD Warrior Lady, hit him with the Donzalug, rip the last card out of their hand, and we should be good here. I'm just going to speed this up a little bit. Yeah, opponent takes the 1400. They lose their last card. It's a Mystical Shine Ball. Which, after I see that, I'm like, this is a weird one. I like the Shine Ball. I like the Agent decks. Those are fun, but this is wild. Like, we're seeing, we have Gravekeeper Spy, we have Divine Wrath, and we have Rhoda in a Shine Ball deck. It's just something weird here. I wish I could actually get the deck list. I'm not sure exactly where Kuhb finished in the tournament, but if we get to see the deck list, that'd be pretty sweet. That'd be a fun one to do, because I love playing with the agent stuff and GOAT. So, opponent draws a card, gain 1,000 life points, they say GG, and that is all for game 1. So, we will get into game 2 after sideboarding. Go ahead and speed this up here. I get to go second. Yay, love going second. But this hand, so you'll see the Nobleman is in there. I believe I actually sided out one Nobleman of Crossout. Seeing the Rhoda generally makes me not want too many number of Noblemans, but I didn't know exactly what we're playing against. I'm thinking this is going to be some sort of Chaos deck. There could definitely be some sort of like Magician of Faith in there, Sangan, something my opponent might want to set. We already saw Gravekeeper Spy, so we know Nobleman has some sort of agency going on in whatever we're playing against here. So I think I decided to leave one Nobleman in and one level 2, just because it is a good Rhoda target. I don't remember exactly how I sided, but I do believe that that was the case, and I think I was thinking, if I get a little bit more information in this game and I feel like maybe Nobleman needs to come out, then I'll just drop the Noblemans altogether. But being up a game, I have the luxury of being able to just go through the next game, get more information, see what I want to do. Opponent has a really long think on this Graceful Charity from what I remember, and they discard Exiled Force Sakuretsu Armor. So they know they're playing against Warriors, and they get rid of their Battle Trap and another monster that can actually kill something. So this means they could have something like Premature Burial, Call of the Haunted in hand. That's a good reason to ditch Exile to the graveyard. But ditching the Sakuretsu Armor generally makes me pretty happy. Really like to see that card go. Obviously, 1-for-1s aren't the end of the world, but Battle Traps can be a little annoying for Warriors. And that's why you see a lot of people side in Sakuretsu against it. So, opponent sets a card, passes their turn. I believe I MST here. Again, it's another blind MST, but it's not like blind into a whole big back row. But like my opponent's going so deep that they're playing Divine Wrath that there's a good chance they're not playing Jar of Greed. And looking at my hand, I'm thinking like I could get the Donzalug and attack, but I can only really protect that with Solemn Judgment, and I don't really just want to Solemn Judgment any play that my opponent plays. So I believe the play here is I do MST, play the Sasuke and get in. Yeah, I do MST. It hits a Torrential, which is very nice. So, well-trained MST. Do I get the Donzalug? I do get the Donzalug. Okay, so I guess is very aggressive. I guess I just decide that maybe I don't have a whole lot of defense anyway, so may as well get the Donzalug. I also have recognized that I have a level 2 and a Nobleman in hand, so I probably don't need to go get my my Exiled Force for any reason, because these are kind of redundant for that. A bigger monster, I can just Solemn if I really want to and get super aggressive, or if it's small enough that Sasuke can get under it, then... or Sasuke can get over it, then I can just play that and get another plus. So this is just like a super aggressive line. I don't hate it. I think maybe I was supposed to be a little bit more conservative, just play out the Sasuke, beat in for 18, but I guess like we saw game 1. I know this is sort of results-oriented thinking, but the Donzalug really just took over the game. So maybe I'm just like, get my plus here. If they play something, I can Solemn that. Not really care about losing the 4,500 and just keep getting in with the Donzalug. And if that snowballs, then I'll just win the game. And if they end up with like a hand of a bunch of monsters that they need to set, like I saw the Spy game 1, and I'm not really sure what all they're going to be playing. So I don't hate the play. It has a lot of upside, but it is very, very aggressive. Certainly not the conservative play that I thought that I made with the Sasuke. We do rip out a Rhoda, which is nice, so that makes it a little less likely that the opponent's going to have something that can beat over this Donzalug. So, we just pass the turn here after setting the Solemn. Opponent MSTs, so Judgment down, but not really that big of a deal. They snatch the Donzalug, which, that's a problem. So we take 1,400. We're kind of just like trading Dawn hits this whole match, which is pretty sweet. Lose 1,400. Really hoping they hit the Nobleman or the Mystic Swordsman here. They roll a die, and they take the Nobleman, which is fine with me. Nobleman's not doing anything on this board. Really, the only card I really wanted to keep here is the Sasuke, so that we can clear this Donzalug off the board. And then... yay! They duo and I lose everything. So, it's going to be tough to get out of this spot. Obviously, 0 cards to 3 cards. I am going to be gaining 1,000. I draw a duo, which is, whatever. My opponent only has 1 card in hand, so not a big deal. I'm just going to set the duo, and my opponent Dust Tornadoes it, and I believe... no, I'm definitely not done from here. I have 8,600 life points, and this Donzalug is nothing but just a 1,400 beater at this point, so it's not really doing much. So there is a plausible... there is a way that I could come back from this. Let's click play. Opponent's, of course, not going to mill me. I don't have a dark in the graveyard, which is unfortunate. So if I draw a BLS, woe is me, but I get to gain 1,000 here. Go back up to 8,200, so sitting at a very nice life total. Kaiku's going to take out this Donzalug, which is going to give me a plus back. I get to take out this Exiled Force from the graveyard, which is going to protect me from any like Premature Burial or Call of the Haunted, like we talked before, that they could have with putting that into the graveyard. Also just means, clearly if they're playing shine balls and stuff, they're going to have the BLS in there. So does ensure that, a BLS follow-up isn't going to happen at some point. They do have Zombra, though, and that's going to cleanly take out the Kaiku. So Zombra at 19, I've got some outs to it, obviously. I've got a whole bunch of traps, got some Blade Knights and stuff. I draw Call of the Haunted. Take a look at the graveyard here. It's not the best Call of the Haunted in the world. None of these can get over Zombra, but maybe if I find something else, the Call of the Haunted could be something here. It could be relevant. So I'm just gonna set it, pass over to my opponent. There's no reason to call back the Kaiku here. Of course, opponent doesn't even have any monsters at all in the graveyard, and I really don't want to just lose to this Zombra. So, opponent has a big think. They set a monster. I don't know what this is, but I don't really just want to run out my level 2 to have it be eaten by the Zombra, but I draw a Pot of Greed. So, maybe we can get back into this game. Dust Tornado Mirror Force is not bad, so now I could actually get the level 2 here and run over the face down monster and protect myself from the Zombra. For some reason, I feel like I don't make that play. I think just being at such a high life total here, and you can see I do sit here and think about this play for quite a while. I think just being at such a high life total, and the Zombra not even being able to attack directly, there's no real reason to rush things. Like, you can look at my opponent's graveyard, like, if it is a Magician of Faith, worst case, they do have Graceful Charity, they do have Duo. I can set cards to play around Duo. In that case, they could get back, like, Rhoda or a Graceful Charity. So if it is a Magician of Faith, it's pretty bad for me. But it's not actually the end of the world. And, like, just putting a level 2 in play doesn't really advance where I want to be right now. So it's not actually winning the game, it's just kind of playing to not lose, and I don't really like that. I want to be as aggressive as possible, so we're just going to pass and hope that eventually we can get something off of this Zombra. So my opponent sacrifices the Shine Ball and plays a Mobius, and that's bad news. Had I set this Dust Tornado, maybe there was a chance that I could have, faded the Mobius, killing the Mirror Force, and we might be in a decent spot here. But I did not. I decided to play a little bit more around heavy. I'm not sure if that was actually correct. Maybe I should have just played the Dust Tornado and said, if they Heavy Storm, the Heavy Storm. That's going to kind of screw me anyway. But I draw a Tribe Infecting Virus, which, is kind of awkward trying to kill a Mobius with that thing, because it's just going to kill itself too. I think I'm just going to speed this up just a little bit too, because this Mobius starts attacking. I get to play my Tribe. I get to ditch this Dust Tornado, kill both of them. So now this Zombra is not going to be able to attack me, but I can't really ditch this Premature Burial because I need to get back the Tribe Infected Virus. Now my opponent's going to Premature Burial their Mobius. Put me to 700. I can kill it with this Tribe Infecting Virus, but I do draw Sakuretsu Armor. That is an out to the Mobius, and I believe I am just going to set that. I just set both of them because I can't even activate the Premature Burial. That's right. I try to Sakuretsu Armor the Mobius. It goes to the graveyard, but the opponent has, 5 cards to my 1. I draw an absolutely just dead Ring of Destruction. So I've got 2 dead cards in my back row. My opponent Heavy Storms. Now they just have to show me any monster. And I die. There's a Gravekeeper Spy. Cool. So we're dead that game. And that's fine. We're going to go to game 3. Got, quite a bit more information. Actually ended up taking out the level 2 and the second knock. Decided that my opponent is on more of an aggressive strategy, sort of akin to Warriors. So I don't really need to worry about the flip so much. I can deal with Spy whenever it gets there. But we open up with a pretty good hand. I don't feel the need to Graceful Charity here because I don't know exactly what my opponent has, and my back rows are great and can handle pretty much anything. I have a Sakuretsu, a Torrential, and a Solemn Judgment. Really hoping my opponent doesn't open on Heavy Storm here. Spoiler, they do. Obviously, we have the Judgment to take care of the Heavy Storm, but, if I don't have to pay the 4,000 life points, that would be great as well. I I would love to just have the Solemn Judgment sitting down there as defense against whatever I need to flip it against, instead of just, turning Heavy Storm into MST that deals 4,500 damage. That's essentially what happens. But, not the worst spot in the world. We do still have a Torrential and a Sakuretsu down. We draw a Zing Zinhu, which I brought in because I, again, was thinking, this is more of like a warrior sort of mirror than like a chaos matchup. So, but gonna play the Graceful Charity here because I kind of don't want the Zing Zinhu. It's just kind of sitting there in my hand. You'll see I do draw a Dark and a Light, which is very nice. And we see this Don Zalug again. I do like having the Dons. I think I ditched the Exiled Force here because, again, like, we have the Exiled Force, we have the DD Warrior Lady that kind of fulfill the same purpose, and we already have Sakuretsu armor and Torrential. We're not super worried about a BLS here. Opponent doesn't even have any monsters in the graveyard. Of course, Don Zalug could help get those cards there. But if that happens, that happens. I would be able to follow up against the BLS with my BLS. Or if I have an empty board at that point, I would just be able to Torrential. Or if it attacks, somehow I could Sakuretsu armor it. That would be the absolute best case scenario. But I don't think I need this Exiled Force here. So yeah, I do pitch the Exiled Force in the Zing Zinhu like I thought. This Dust Tornado could still get value. I'm just going to go ahead and run the Dawn out. And if they have a removal spell for the Dawn, that's fine. I'm actually building up to a BLS at this point. So there's no need to just play passive and wait, because I really want to play the DD Warrior Lady on the next turn as well. If they don't Torrential here, then they don't have Torrential set. So I kind of don't really have to worry about that. And their Heavy's gone, so I do get to set this Dust Tornado. So if they do set a new back row, I can just dust that. And I don't have to worry about the Torrential anymore. If that card was, or I guess if it's anything, I don't have to worry about the Torrential. My opponent gives a think here, and I was like, oh, they're actually going to Divine Wrath the Don Zalug, which means that I wouldn't get a random discard from their hand. They would actually get to pick, and they get to kill the Don Zalug, which is kind of neat. But also, they do still minus themselves here, so Don Zalug kind of put in the work that I wanted to. And now I'm up 5 cards to 3. We went first, so we're kind of up 5 cards to 4. We're just at a +1 in turns here. But the opponent did discard a Mobius, which I really like. Kind of don't want to see that. And they're going to Premature Burial here, which I don't believe they had any monsters before that. Yeah, so they couldn't have... this kind of makes me think they don't have any monsters in hand. I give a think on this Premature Burial, and I believe I end up Dust Tornadoing. Yeah. So the reason, like, obviously, I have Torrential set, I have Sakuretsu armor set. The obvious play is to let the Mobius come into play, let it attack, and Sakuretsu armor it. Then I get to keep my Dust Tornado for any fresh back row that they set. And if I think maybe they don't have any monsters in hand, then I can use the premature, because of the Premature Burial play, then I think they have, Spell and Traps, which makes Dust Tornado a little better. However, I did think about it, and I was like, what do I lose to here if I let this go through? Because I do have a Dust Tornado, I could just answer it right now. And that is the opponent playing a second Mobius. I don't necessarily lose to that straight up. But if my opponent plays another Mobius, I can Torrential it, but they get to destroy my Sakuretsu armor as well, and there's just no need to let them even get to that point. And God forbid they have a Jinzo. So either of those just led me to, let's just Dust Tornado the Premature Burial. We're so far ahead in this game right now, may as well just, not take any chances, be conservative, and just take care of the problem right now. So I do like that play, hitting it like that. Now if my opponent does follow it up with a normal summon or whatever, I do have this Torrential, I have a Sakuretsu armor, I'm not too worried about things, and then I do have this DD Warrior Lady to also help clean up stuff, if something happens to get through. My opponent does set a back row, which, woe is me, the Dust Tornado's gone, but that's fine. I draw a Mobius, which is interesting. I Again, I think I actually just sided in one of these. After gaining the information that I did from game 2, and deciding that it was correct to like take out the Nox and the level 2s, I was like, maybe we want to bring in the Mobius as well and just kind of treat it like a Warrior Mirror match, because that's kind of what's going on. Worst case, Mobius comes out, pops 1 or 0 things, but it's just a big beater sitting on the board. It's really hard to get over. Your opponent has to use resources really just to get over it. If my opponent Divine Rats it, big deal. It's still, Mobius getting in work there, because it does take the opponent minusing to activate the Divine Wrath. And at this point, I don't think they're on Sinister Serpent or anything like that, so it is a true minus with the Divine Wrath. So, just going to summon the DD Warrior Lady here. Again, we're getting really, really close to BLS lethal range, so I'm just going to get in there with the DD Warrior Lady. Ring of Destruction is fine. I really wish I could have gotten one hit in with the DD Warrior Lady, then the BLS would actually be lethal. But that's fine. Opponent goes to 43. We're at 3,000. We have infinite answers to everything here. We've got Torrential, Sakuretsu. We can follow up with a BLS because we do have a Light and Dark in the grave now. And if we draw something like Premature Burial or something, we have this Mobius ready to go before the BLS. But opponent just sets a monster and passes. We draw Jar of Greed, which, a Jar of Greed is Jar of Greed. It's going to be a redraw at some point, but I sit here and think a while. I was like, do I even play this BLS? And I believe I decide to go ahead and play it. If you look at the opponent's graveyard, if that's a Magician of Faith, they get Heavy Storm back. That's really bad for me. Even getting a Premature is not that bad. But they could Premature into Mobius, and we could be right back at that one play that I talked about earlier, where my opponent could just have the Mobius, sacrifice it off for another Mobius, and then I'm hurting. So, kind of go over any of the Doomsday scenarios in my head. And I believe I do decide to play the BLS here. I set my jar because it's inconsequential. Yes, I do play the BLS. And I exile my opponent's exiled force. I said exile. I'm a Magic player. Banish my opponent's exiled force. So I was like, neat. That's awesome. Now my opponent doesn't have this exiled force to kill my BLS. That's pretty good. So, opponent immediately looking in their graveyard. They have a Mobius. That is not a dark or a light. So if they have a BLS, they can't play it. We have this BLS just sitting here. Yeah, if they start setting monsters, that's fine. I'm just going to banish every turn and get my pluses. I draw a Zombra, which is kind of, irrelevant. But if my opponent does put some sort of, beefy monster on the board, say a Tribe or something, then, cool. I can take care of that. I do go ahead. This is interesting. I actually banish an Iron Blacksmith Kotetsu. I have no idea what that thing's doing. The only equipped spell that I guess I've seen Snatch Steal and Premature Burial, which those are actually pretty good search targets against warriors. So, but if it's just there for those, that's just kind of weird, right? Especially when I'm playing Blade Knights and stuff, and have shown that I'm going to keep in the Nox post board. At least that's what I showed in game 2. But here, after I banish, I go ahead and Jar of Greed, just in case I draw a monster like this Blade Knight. So that I can get in some damage. Because if I can put my opponent below 3,000, then this BLS is just in lethal range. And we can go from there. So, did draw a Blade Knight. Pretty happy about that. It is just going to be the 1,600 instead of the 2,000, but I do have a Sakuretsu armor to protect it. So here, worst case scenario would be a Tribe Infecting Virus. Obviously, it would get rid of both of my monsters, but opponent's low on resources, and we can just beat over that with the Zombra, that I think we're just going to be fine here, even if they do have that. So I'm pretty okay with extending into another creature on the board. Opponent has a big think. Another big think. And they play an Agent of Creation. This is fine. So their plan here is to actually summon out 2 Shine Balls. and attack into the Blade Knight, which I don't know if I can get behind on that one. It does kill the Blade Knight, and on board they're not dead because the BLS, it can just attack over the 2 Shine Balls. But I think for a second, I'm like, I can let this go. But I think flipping up Sakuretsu armor is just the same as, being able to play the Zombra. This shows my opponent, face up, you're dead. You have to do something right now. And if they don't, you'll see we win the match. So, I'm still not exactly sure what we played against. It's kind of like a warrior-ish thingy, chaos, with, they have a small warrior package, I imagine, with the agent package. And they've got some sort of amount of chaos going on there. I don't think we ever saw a Chaos Sorcerer in the whole match, but they definitely have BLS in there somewhere. But yeah, interesting deck that we played against round 1. Happy to start off with a win, but that is round 1, and I will see you all back here for round 2 of the Patreon World Championship Qualifier 56.